Today we continue our player reviews by talking about Jace Jung and Reese Olson, as well as a few other news and notes, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We love our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Wednesday, halfway point in yet another week here. I'm going to spend most of the show continuing our 2025 player reviews. We will talk Reese Olson today. We will talk Jace Jung today. Two very different tones, I guess we'll say, in regards to those two players. We do have a couple of news and notes to start off the show. Nothing earth-shattering yet again, but stuff I still want to bring up. I want, to pretty much relate anything that is relayed to the public or that happens within the organization I would like to speak about in some capacity. So we'll talk about that. I also got a question the other day when I think it was Monday's episode, maybe. It was either that or the end of last week. I don't know. Time all blends together at this point. But we ranked we didn't rank. We listed the three possibilities of Tarik Skubal, really. And the three outcomes that are pretty much on the table for the Detroit Tigers. And somebody asked me in the comments, what is the likelihood of all three of these happening? So we're going to rank them today really quickly before our player reviews. Let's start off with news and notes. The only one I have today is Brayan Pena signs an extension with the organization. This is beautiful, wonderful, and fantastic news. He was a catching coordinator for the Tigers organization in 2025, was not strictly held to the major leagues. He worked with Iron Lorenzo a lot. Evan Petzold wrote a great piece about that earlier in the year. So yeah, he worked with all catchers in the organization. He has very, very notably worked incredibly well with prospects in the minor leagues in his Tigers tenure. And yeah, he was a great player first manager, right? Put his players kind of above everything. Every minor leaguer that has played for him absolutely adores him. And I'm really glad he's returning not only to the organization, but also it was announced with this announcement that he is returning to be a minor league manager, which I think is beautiful. Not that, I'm sure he was great in his role as catching coordinator. I almost feel like that is he's overqualified to do that, if that makes sense. I would rather him be a minor league manager and working, hands-on with every single player that goes through this system as opposed to just one position and kind of a select few. So I've said this for three, maybe even 4 years now on this show. I think he's a rising star in the coaching kind of landscape, and it would not surprise me if he moved his way up through the ranks of the minor leagues and through the ranks of kind of coaching, if you will, over the next 4 or 5 years. So I'm glad that he is back. Sounds like a 2-year deal. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's talk Tarik Skubal again, as we do. Yesterday was the first day, I think, since the Tigers got eliminated that we didn't bring up Tarik Skubal in any capacity. So let's give ourselves a pat on the back. Okay, and now the clock starts again because we're going to talk about him today. I wonder what the longest we will go is. And I don't want to. I hope that's clear. I'm not happy to be talking about this situation literally every single day, but something comes out about it literally every day. And it's probably the biggest story in all of baseball in the offseason, obviously after the World Series. So, as I said on, I think it was Monday's show, we kind of outlined three branches of thought and three different possibilities for the Tarik Skubal situation and how it would end, right? Three different outcomes. And someone had asked me, what is the one that's the most likely to happen of those three that we mentioned? Because we didn't really talk about that in that show. So I'm just going to rank all of them straight up in my eyes of order of likelihood. Okay. We're going to start off. Number one, the most likely is option C from that episode. And that would be they don't trade him and they also don't extend him. They try to win with him in 2026. Maybe they try to extend him. Ultimately, he enters free agency. The Tigers get a competitive balance pick or a comp pick rather to, compensate for losing him after they inevitably offer him a qualifying offer after next season. We'll break that down a little bit more here in a second, but I think pretty clearly that one is the most likely outcome. Second most likely is B. They trade him this winter. They realize that the gap is just simply too large for contract negotiations, and they figure we might as well trade him now, bolster the roster, at least try to, with the return that they get. And then the least likely in my eyes, again, I could be very wrong. I'm just an idiot with a microphone, is A, and that would be to just extend him in the next 11 months, 12 months. There's really not too much else to say in regards to A. I will not believe that he is extended until he is. Like, as simple as that. I am just going forward under the interpretation and under the belief that he is not going to be extended by the Detroit Tigers. That doesn't even necessarily mean he won't come back, but if he does, it will be a brand new contract because the Tigers will have outbid everybody else in free agency. I just do not see him getting a deal done before he enters said free agency. As far as the trade goes, I'll be honest with you. I believe that a trade, I've slowly come around to that more, the possibility of it, I should say, more in recent weeks. I think a trade is more likely now than I did certainly a year ago, but probably even, like I said, 2 to 4 weeks ago, a month ago. I think there's momentum there that is growing, and I think a lot of teams will be calling Harris during GM and winter meetings. Now, on the flip side of that, if you want, angel and devil on your shoulder, if you want to play devil's advocate here, the other thing we have learned about Scott Harris in his 3 years going on 4 with the Detroit Tigers organization is that he does not budge on his interpretation of value. He will stand pat on a player at the deadline. He will stand pat on a player in the offseason. He will not force a trade. He will not trade just to do it. And even if you're a little bit less than what he wants, if you are not giving him an adequate return that he believes matches the value that he is giving up, he will absolutely just not do anything instead. For better or for worse. I think that's welcomed in some situations, and I think that's frustrating in some situations. But I think that we have learned that over these last, certainly trade deadlines and winters as well. C, being the most likely, also means that it's the most frustrating one to talk about unless it ends in a World Series win. Right? Like, there's a chance that it's not even necessarily anybody's fault. Like, there's a chance that he just refuses to go to or to extend with the Tigers, and him and Boris are just like, we, no matter what, want to test free agency. And then there's also a chance that nobody else in baseball, there's going to be some good trade offers out there, I'm sure, but matches the value that he's truly worth. And The Tigers just go, okay, we're just going to ride out one more year with him before he walks. And I think that's the most likely scenario by a pretty significant margin. Maybe not all the context and like qualifiers I threw in there, but I think the most likely is just that he plays one more year for the Tigers and then walks. My only ask throughout this is to fully commit to one, okay? And we will talk about that a little bit more right after this. First, though, got to talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth between 401ks, savings, investments. It's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It has helped me and so many others in so many ways. You can organize your accounts, track your spending, get a better handle on investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarch.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. Also got to talk to you about our friends over at Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. So don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and all of a sudden you are in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make adjustments to your lineup in under a minute. And you're honestly, like, my favorite part is they also just added stacks. So if I want to ride a player, I can select their passing yards, rushing yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. There's so many other great features as well. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow as we keep the offseason train rolling along. Today, we talk about Reese Olson and Jace Jung here in a second, but to put a bow on today's edition of Where in the World is Tarik Skubal, my only ask is that they fully commit to one of those if they do it. Okay, like fully. Either pay up and extend him, right? You trade him for a massive haul and make sure that that is the return to your incredibly high standards, which it should be, or accept that he's walking after 2026 and be way more aggressive this offseason and this 2026 trade deadline to bring a World Series ring here before he does walk. Whatever you pick, just pick it intentionally. I do not want him to just walk in 2026 and they didn't do a whole lot else either because they were just kind of crossing their fingers and holding out hope that something would change. Whatever you pick, we're going to have to live with. This is a front office defining move and will be, as I said Monday, no matter what, whether it's good or bad, it will define this front office's tenure. Just make sure you pick it because you actually want to pick it, not because, oh, well, we just ended up here and nothing else worked. A and B didn't work, so it has to be C. Go all in on one of them. Okay. Enough of that. Let's talk player reviews. We're going to get through 2 players today. First, we will talk about Jace Jung. Second up, we'll talk about Reese Olson. Jace Jung is a little bit more of a downer, I guess, of a conversation. I don't even want to just look at his stats in 2025. I'm just going to straight up use his major league career statistics, which is about 150 plate appearances. He has a 190 batting average, a 315 on base percentage, and a 230 slug. That is a 545 career major league OPS and 150 plate appearances. Like I said, I think it's more appropriate just to use his whole MLB career rather than just one season. And honestly, that gives him like more of the benefit of the doubt because his 2024 was, well, neither of them were good. His 2024 was certainly better than his 2025 offensively. He just hasn't adjusted to big league pitching and big league velocity. The worry I have with Jace Jung is that the Tigers aren't in a position to give him 500 plate appearances against MLB pitching and ask him to just figure it out. And the reason they are not in a position to do that is because they are trying to win games. And we know that him at his quote unquote worst in terms of production at the major league level is a 545 OPS. I mean, even that, again, is with a better 2024 mixed in. His stats this year were even less than that. And that if he doesn't ever make that adjustment, and the timing never is something that he's capable of consistently, at least matching, then you're just not going to get production out of your everyday, wherever he ends up, second base, third base. So they can't afford to do that at this point. If this was 2019 or even 2022, you'd probably say so be it. Just throw him out there and see if he can adjust to the pitching. But we are well past that. This team has made the World Series 2 years in a row. The issue with that is that I think for his development, the best shot he has at reaching his ceiling at this point, at now 25 years old, is by seeing a lot of major league caliber pitching on a consistent basis. I really just don't think AAA does too much for him at this point. Like, he hits well at AAA. He always has hit well in the minor leagues. I don't think that's going to stop or like change. The jump between AAA and the majors is always the hardest and always the biggest. That's fairly obvious. And he has made some mechanical changes this year to help his biggest issue, which is he can't hit high velocity. You look at the pitch distribution that he faces, he just gets force-fed fastballs, man. He should. He hit 080 against fastballs in 2025 at the major league level, I should say. At the MLB level, he hit 080 against fastballs this season with 0 extra base hits. I mean, he only had 5 hits total at the major league level this year, and they were all singles. This is a guy that had a lot of power at Texas Tech, and it was a big reason why he was drafted in the first round. He hit for pretty decent pop in AAA and pretty solid power throughout the minor leagues, and has literally 0 at the major league level. He has yet to hit a major league home run. He got called up in the middle of 2024. And he only has, I believe it's 5 doubles. 5 total extra base hits and 150 plate appearances. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There is still a profile here that some people can grab onto and believe in. And I think that that's worth talking about as well, right? This is not like, oh, he's just the worst hitter I've ever seen and there's just nothing here. There is still reasons to give you hope. It's just a matter of how much you believe in them. He doesn't swing and miss a lot. Around league average whiff rate at the major league level, improved on that throughout the season at the minor league level, even to the point where he was hitting better against lefties than righties at one point in the minor leagues. And that being the case, despite the inability to catch up to velocity, is kind of fascinating to me. And then his biggest positive at the moment is his walk rate. The fact that he has a sub 200 batting average and an on-base percentage over 300 is honestly kind of remarkable. Like, that is incredibly difficult and impressive, to be real with you. So yeah, a walk rate of almost 13% this year. And if you include 2024, his major league career walk rate is almost 15%. That is astronomically high. So the decision-making is there. The bat-to-ball skills aren't awful. He's just late on dang near everything. And again, he tried to change his mechanics this year to help with that. He had a really unique bat or hand positioning and not only his hand placement, but his load too was just very, I mean, he did the thing with the bat, right, where he kind of set it weirdly. You don't see that too often. So he's changed that. He's trying to be quicker to the ball, right? Hands, quickest possible path to the baseball. The defense, I think it's fair to say, has been pretty underwhelming in his career. I do think, to his credit, that he has improved significantly from 2024 to 2025 in terms of third base defense. I think he looked much better at third base in this calendar year. And then he's not a fast runner at all. So like the reason I bring those things up is ultimately we can talk about, the tools that a player has and with everybody, and Jace Jung included, but this is a guy you brought on board, you drafted to hit. Now, Scott Harris did not draft him, right? This is an Avila pick. But you brought him on board to hit. And if he is not hitting, he is not going to provide a ton of value really anywhere else on the field. So what's the future of Jace Jung? I'd bet he's somewhat of a DFA candidate this year. Not because they're like chomping at the bit to kick him out of the organization or anything, but I think that maybe they'd put him on waivers, get him to clear waivers, remove him from the 40-man once he does, but then still sign him back to a minor league deal. Now, he has options remaining, so like they don't have to do this unless they run out of room. But like Akil Baddoo last year, like got DFA'd and then got brought back on a minor league deal just so that they could remove him from the 40-man roster. I see some people that are like, all year this year, we're talking about trade him. Dude, like he's 25 years old and doesn't have any other plus tools outside of the batter's box. And he has yet to prove that is a major league caliber tool in itself. Like I really don't think there's a ton of trade value here. So maybe he can be part of a bigger trade. Maybe there's a couple of larger trades that happened this winter and he's slapped on there to increase value, get it over the hump, or another team maybe thinks that they can, fix his swing at the major league level. But I doubt that on his own, he has too much trade value at the moment. So we'll see. Like, I hope he makes adjustments. And like, I mean, if he does, then that's huge for the organization because it would solve a ton of problems, which is the black hole that has been third base for the last couple of years. And it's been his job to lose. And he's done really nothing at the major league level, but lost it. So, I mean, I've heard nothing but positive things about him as a person. A lot of people, like reports out of there, have said he's a great dude and a great teammate. It just right now, it seems unlikely to me that he is going to take the third base spot and run with it. And like I said, I'm not even really sure he makes it through the winter. So we'll see what happens. The best case scenario is he gets in the lab, he makes some more adjustments, he comes into spring training and starts raking. And that's everybody's hope. And I'll be rooting for the kid no matter what. So, okay, let's talk about Reese Olson. We will do that right after this. First, though, I'm going to talk to you all about our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you won't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. There's so many great features. You can build parlays, try player props, even follow the games live and bet on live lines. So it makes watching football way more fun when you've got a little bit of something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Lastly, got to talk to you all about Rougiette. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard it before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it really easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. There's no awkward waiting rooms or anything, and no in-person appointments. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit RUGIET.com/LockedOnMLB to get 15% off of your first order. That's Rougiette.com/LockedOnMLB. And don't forget to use code LockedOnMLB so that they know that we sent you. Rougiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment. Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Let's finish this episode by talking about Reese Olson. 3.15 ERA in 2025, a 1.21 whip. He went 4-4 in 13 games started. He was shut down about halfway through the year and never returned because of a right shoulder strain. He also dealt with a strain on his finger earlier in the season and missed a couple of starts due to that as well. He is fantastic. He was this team's second best starting pitcher this year in his limited time, and there's so much good to take out of his game. He has two elite swing and miss pitches in the changeup and the slider, and he pairs those with a mid-90s fastball. He absolutely rocks. The sinker that he has a lot of movement on it. I think his stuff is dynamic in every sense of the word. I actually think his changeup is his best pitch at this point, which for a while it was just a foregone conclusion that it was the slider. I think this year that changed to the changeup. He was better against lefties than righties this year as a right-handed pitcher, and that is almost solely due to the effectiveness of his changeup. Right, he throws the slider sweeper thing that he has to righties, and he throws the changeup to lefties. And both of their whiff rates were around 40%. The changeup was barely hit at all year. He is amazing. The biggest thing is just to stay healthy, man. The areas of improvement, I mean, there's a couple, I guess, in a perfect world. But like this dude had a 3.15 ERA this year. If you want to be nitpicky, I've really been talking about it and been complaining about it for his entire major league career. He does not get whiffs on his fastball, despite it moving a lot and it being a high velo pitch. I would like to make maybe an arm angle adjustment, a point of release adjustment, whatever it is, to maybe tweak that and get it to a point where it's getting more swing and miss. I guess he could have been a little bit better with runners in scoring position. He had an OPS over 700 with that, but it wasn't terrible. Like guys were hitting 220, I believe it was, with RISP against him. Really, I think the biggest difference between the two seasons, 2024 and 2025, that is his ground ball rate. I think in 2024, I stomached the lack of swing and miss in the fastball because he had a ground ball rate over 50% along with two elite swing and miss pitches, so he could really get you out any way he wanted. And in 2025, his ground ball rate was not bad, okay? It was still above league average, but it was just barely above league average. It was not the 51 or 52% that it was, which is very, very high in 2024. So getting that back to a point where, hey, it's either a ground ball or a strikeout, like that's best case scenario. That's exactly what you want out of a starting pitcher. That is literally what is taught. So that's maybe something we could hope for, and hopefully there's some adjustments that could be made in that regard. The only real glaring thing when you look at his makeup is just when he gives up contact, it is hard hit. That is kind of the profile he has, though, right? Like a guy that does not get swing and miss on his fastball and throws a lot of breaking balls. That is kind of like, hey, he's going to get a lot of swing and miss, but he's also, right? Like fastballs get hit hard when they're timed up well and when they're not swung and missed at, which he doesn't do. And the breaking balls produce a ton of whiffs when the spot is hit. When it's hung in the zone, it gets hit very hard and often for extra bases. So that improves somewhat if there's just some whiff in the fastball. I sound like a broken record. I'm sorry. But again, ultimately, if he can get the ground ball rate back up to near 50% again, I won't care as much about the hard hit rate. Like you can hit the ball as hard as you want if it's in the ground, for all I care. Just do that and continue to get the swing and miss at a top 20th percentile in baseball rate. He's the man. I'm really just nitpicking for the sake of like being fair to everybody. But he's the man. I think if it wasn't for injuries, we'd be penciling him in as the number 2 starter going into next year. But the biggest issue in his career is that he has missed significant time, honestly, in literally every Major League Baseball season he's been a part of. So he should be healthy by spring training in this go around, and will either be the number 2 or number 3 starter on opening day based on what the offseason looks like and if they bring anybody else in. If there was a world in which they trade Skubal, depending on what the return is, you're talking about a guy that may end up, again, being the 2 or even 1 if that were to happen. But as said earlier in the show, I don't think that that's all too likely. So, okay, I think that's pretty much all I got. World Series kicks off on Friday, an absolutely classic ball game on Monday night. That's when Game 7 was. All-time classic, man. George Springer. George Springer, I think, is weirdly one of the most underrated players from those Astros teams. He has just been nothing but rake every postseason of his life. One of the true great postseason hitters of my generation, certainly. And yeah, Blue Jays Dodgers, man. Whole lot of blue in that World Series that kicks off on Friday. I will be pulling for our Canadian brothers and sisters, but to each their own. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we, of course, will be back tomorrow continuing off-season talk. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.